rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. I think I got the the sound to actually go on the title. I noticed that didn't work last time. Oh, it's a work in progress. All right. So welcome. I think I can still do this though, even though, I want to say it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Welcome to the number one liquid fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is American Perspective. And I am your host, Rick Thomas. I think I'm going to do that from now on. What do you guys think? You tell me, because this show is for you, of course. So, hey, I got to do a quick round. I see something. First of all, I've got to give a really big shout out to Camden. Hello, Camden. That is absolutely awesome that you are chatting for your mom, Coco Dominky, because she's trying to make sure that you stay safe driving them home. That is fantastic. And hello to Coco, to mom, for doing that as well. So hi, Camden and Coco Dominky over on Rumble. I see Music Man, Mark, Bonnie, Tommy Young is on Facebook, and she's listening to Rumble in case I get kicked off of Facebook again. Buddy Weiser, got something special from him here in just a minute. And let me see who else I see. 3 Chevy. And I think I've got everybody. I'm pretty sure. Did I get everybody? Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like I think I got everybody now who is here. Anyway, so everybody, fantastic. This is a awesome group of individuals. I love all of my Whiskey Warriors. You guys are just absolutely fantastic. And I'm hearing myself quite loud tonight. That's kind of interesting. So anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and do this. Of course, if you are capable and are of a mind to, please go ahead and stand and remove your hats. I have a very special one of these tonight. Instead of listening to me drone on, Buddy Weiser submitted his version. And so here it is without further ado. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
And of course, amen on that one, my brother. Hey, if you guys he actually came up with this idea. I mean, I sort of had an idea about it, but he certainly finalized it here. If you guys want to volunteer yourselves for saying the Pledge of Allegiance instead of just listening to me all the time, do this, okay? Get your phone, or, especially your phone, because your phone just seems to do everything, but record yourself saying the Pledge of Allegiance and then email me that audio file, and I will go ahead and put it in on the Pledge of Allegiance, under the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll just have you guys do the pledge rather than just me, because that's the way we roll around here. This is awesome. This show is for you, and you guys can add content to it. All right. So, of course, tonight is Wednesday, and that means it's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. All right. And it is, of course, the requisite True Grit Roots Network on the glass tonight. And tonight's drink of choice is Knob Creek Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I know Bonnie's probably going to be, she'll either give me a thumbs up or not. But anyway, so we will go ahead and do that. But first, I got to tell you, we've got a fantastic event coming up on True Grit Roots Network. So let me go ahead and bring that up and tell you about it. Especially for you, Music Man, you might be able to pick this one up. All right. True Grit Roots Network is proud to present and produce The Outlaws Come to Gainesville, Texas on Saturday, April 20th at Bare Bones Barbecue. It is presented and produced by True Grit Roots Network. Billy Stoops and the Dirty Angels and Dallas Moore will bring their roots, rockin', and outlaw country shows to the Boneyard at Bare Bones Barbecue for one singular night only. And that is Saturday, April 20th at 8 p.m. Billy Stoops and Dallas Moore are multi-award-winning artists who bring their songs and stories to the stage that will bring you to your feet all night long. Tickets and information can be found at tgrn.net. That's tgrn.net, Austin, Texas. And of course, I am part owner in that endeavor. Something about Billy Stoops. The first time that I ever heard a Billy Stoops song, I don't know if anybody has listened to, or watched, I should say, watched the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. Well, at the very end, there is a song that's played when they're driving the Chevelle out in the open plains in, I believe it's Wyoming or Montana. I'm not exactly sure where they actually filmed it, but I think it's right after, it's the tail end of the film. And that thing is just fantastic. And the song that he sings, I can't remember the title of it, but you'll notice it. And he just does a fantastic time with it. He played that song for us at one point. I think I was listening on TGRN or something like that, in my cohort. Jonathan Oogie Richards was playing it. And I, of course, had to message him and go, hey, I know that song. That was in this movie. So there you go. Billy Stoops has got a lot of freaking songs and stories and just fantastic stuff. And, of course, Dallas Moore, another multi-award-winning artist. And so it is fantastic. So if you get the chance, and you know what? You might even want to take a trip down to Texas and check it out. Go to Gainesville, Texas, and pick up on that show. That is, again, Saturday, April 20th, I believe. I turned off the script, so so I don't remember. But anyway, yeah, you can go and check us out. Check it out at tgrn.net. You can see it. It's splashed on the front page. You can't miss it. All right. Anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and get some things going. Just so you're aware, I do not have a submission for Pet of the Week. Outlaw Dogs, your submission came in, but unfortunately, it has copyrighted music in it, and I really am skirting on the edge of getting dinged a lot lately for copyrighted stuff. So I kind of got to slow down and not put that stuff out there. Otherwise I would go ahead and show everybody that, but it had, you put copyrighted music in the background. So I have no other choice, but to not play it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I know I could mute it. If I had it ready to do it, I would, but, yeah, anyway, maybe next time, maybe we'll do it next time. But anyway, for those of you that aren't familiar, Pet of the Week is on Wednesdays, and you guys can, send in your pictures and stories of your pets, and I will feature them on Pet of the Week. And you can do that by sending it in to fans at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. You'll notice that changed. Even though the old addresses still work, I'm going to keep those open for a little while, for at least a little while longer, if not, indefinitely. But yeah, you can send me information, send me fun stuff there. at fans at American Perspective, all one word, .online. All right. So, of course, the biggest news that occurred was last night, Super Tuesday, where we had, 4, 5, 6 states, something like that, all voting in the primaries. And, of course, that followed right off of the SCOTUS win for Donald Trump on the 14th Amendment against Colorado, which basically was a 9-0 smackdown. Now, keep in mind, as excited as you guys can get with that, that is shall I say, it wasn't really unexpected. Okay, let's just put it that way. It wasn't unexpected at all. In fact, you could tell by the questions and the attitudes of all 9 justices, realistically, to understand that they all sort of questioned whether or not Colorado had the right to go ahead and do that. But again, take the win, be happy. I know that, when the left is not happy, we should be happy. And the left is not happy at all. For whatever reason, they're back to talking about expanding the court. They're back to discussing potentially, and Jamie Raskin, who's probably like one of the worst lefty lunatics in the, I think if I remember right, he's a representative. But anyway, he is talking about putting forth legislation that is going to, take Trump off the ballot. And yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Anyway, so she just, I don't know why she stayed in it for as long as I do know why. It's because she was getting paid. I mean, let's be honest. She whored herself out. Oh, did I say that out loud? To the Democrat donor that was backing her up, just to continue herself. With that, she had donor money, and they were tossing the money in, and yeah, it just anyway, whatever. She's finally decided to call it quits. Now, the funny thing about Super Tuesday was the fact that she won 2 states or 2 areas. She won Vermont and she won DC. Now, the thing about it is about who won what. Now, first of all, if you were expecting Donald Trump to win in DC, that's like crazy. Okay. That's just nuts. All right. Because of the fact that we all know DC is the center of the swamp and the center of these leftist lunatics who are trying to take over our country, and their Marxist ways. But, they went ahead and, she won in DC. Okay, great. But the thing about it was, I don't know if anybody caught this. Dan Bongino mentioned it. Mark Levin mentioned it. But I'm not sure if everybody caught this. There's an interesting correlation to the number of people who voted for Nikki Haley in DC and how that influences or could possibly influence his Trump's chances at getting a fair trial in DC. One of the ones that were out there was the fact that Mark Elias, now I don't know, for some of you who may not, run around on X, Mark Elias is this left-wing, leftist Democrat donor, Democrat backed, potentially Soros backed, I don't know, lawyer who's been going around and challenging election laws across the United States. And of course, he sits there and he brags about it on X. He brags about his wins. He brags about this. He brags about that, whatever it is. But anyway, he posted a post where he was talking about 70,000 people voted for Nikki Haley and only 686, I believe was the number, voted for Donald Trump. And what he doesn't understand is that just demonstrates how unlikely it is for Donald Trump to be able to actually pull a good and unbiased jury pool. And I mean, obviously he thought it was something really fantastic, but when you really look at it and you're like, okay, that's a lot of people, but you're talking about less than 1% of the entire number of people voted who would actually go for Trump. And so, yeah, it was kind of a self-own. And in fact, one other commentator, and Dan Bongino had him on. I wish I should have grabbed the video. But anyway, he had him on and he was saying the same thing. He's like, this just kind of shows the DC, how much against Trump DC is. And it's like, you guys are idiots. You don't seem to understand. Most people with their eyes open who know what's going on. We know that Trump can't get a fair trial in DC. We know that Trump can't get a fair trial in New York. Why do you think we, as Americans, are looking at the lawfare that's running around with all of this that's going on with Trump? And I mean, come on, it's almost a no-brainer, which anyone who thinks of that is kind of no-brained. But anyway, moving on. So obviously, Trump is going to have some serious things coming up, especially with regards to the immunity case. And I've got some of that here in just a second. But first, I do want to take us down the SCOTUS, just a short, brief path on the SCOTUS trail. SCOTUS, of course, 9-0 for Trump. And immediately after that, I told you Jamie Raskin started talking about the House Dems are talking about they're going to act and they're going to create a law and so on and so forth to try and kick him off the ballot, because that's their last-ditch effort, realistically, now that SCOTUS has kind of said what they said. And so anyway, Speaker Johnson, of course, slams the House Dems and says, get a grip. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I agree with the guy. He's been sort of, but the reality of it is this, that anything that they put forth, you got to remember, a lot of people don't seem to understand. And this is kind of where we get confused, because the news media, of course, does this. Whenever the House passes a bill, it's automatically put in the headlines, Congress passes bill. And unless you are, younger than I am, which isn't that, which isn't that far away, honestly. But you also need to understand that we have two houses in Congress. We have the House of Representatives, which is called the People's House, and typically considered the lower chamber. And then we have the upper chamber, or the Senate. And in order for a bill to pass, one or both houses generates it, okay? And both houses have to agree upon it. If it passes both chambers, then it goes to the president for the president to sign. Now, right now, we have such a split. Not only, the House, we've got a sliver of a majority in the House, and we have essentially a 50-50 split in the Senate, with Kamala Harris as VP being the tiebreaker in terms of a vote. So anything that gets proposed in the House, obviously, if it's designed to pass through simple majority, it's going to get shot down. Okay. If you go into the Senate, it's possible you could get a 50-50 deadlock. And then, of course, Kamala Harris would be the deciding vote in that sense. And so those kinds of things have to occur before anything gets into law. That's part of the reason why we're at such a standstill with this particular session as well. So for an example, for those of you that don't know, H.R. 2, that's House Resolution 2, was passed in the House of Representatives, was sent to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer has refused to bring it to the floor for consideration. So it's just been sitting. It's just been sitting there. And H.R. 2, and the reason why is because H.R. 2 actually does things for the border, unlike this, quote, bipartisan border bill that they've been tossing around in the news and been saying, you know, that the Republicans don't want to pass it. Well, you know, again, Fat Boss, Schoolhouse Rock. That's right. That's right. I'm just a bill, and I'm only a bill sitting here on top of the hill. Yeah, okay. I remember that. I think I actually have that somewhere. But anyway, so yeah, it's H.R. 2, which would actually handle the border security and be real border security, has just been sitting in the Senate. For no reason, the Senate just does not want to even comment on it. Now, what ended up happening, if they did, if they took it under advisement and then modified it, they would have to send it back to the House of Representatives in order to be able to validate the changes, that the House approves the changes, and then it becomes the bill to go off to the president for him to sign. Now, the going off into to the president for him to sign, he has the opportunity to veto that. And if he vetoes it, okay, right now, because there is no veto proof majority in Congress, period, then if he vetoes it, that's gone. Then the bill no longer becomes law. So you have to have both houses pass as it sits, and the president has to sign it in order for it to become a law. And that's what I think a lot of these people don't seem to understand, that, yeah, I mean, Jamie Raskin could create whatever, you know, legislation he wants, but if it doesn't get passed in either house, it goes nowhere at all. All right. Now, here's some of the things. This is coming from the Federalist. Here's some of the things that they were talking about. See, Democrats keep talking about protecting democracy. And realistically, what ends up happening here is democracy, okay, means that the people actually get a say. But Democrats don't want democracy. They want control. They want power. They don't want democracy, realistically. They say they do, but believe me, they don't. They don't. And it doesn't really matter anyway, because, I mean, America is a republic, not a democracy. In fact, the founders, I have a meme that I've been throwing out on social media. The founders actually didn't like democracy either, because democracy generally tends to erode very quickly into mob rule. And so they didn't like it at all. Okay. So, I mean, again, it's, they are once again talking about, of course, packing the court, which realistically it can be done. I mean, it was, the court was larger than what it is today. It was also smaller than what it is today, back in the day. So anyway, they like I was saying, they're talking about potentially putting together a law that's going to block Trump. They're going to let's see, what else are they doing? They're blaming, of course, and this is really strange. It was a 9-0 decision, and yet they were again blaming Clarence Thomas, which doesn't make any sense. Why are you going after just him? It was a 9-0 decision. I don't understand these guys. I really don't. I don't understand. And of course, the Democrats all freaked out on the Supreme Court with the whole thing about this. They keep talking about the court's complicity, boosting Trump, when all they did was uphold Section 5 of the 14th Amendment, which, if you recall, and you go back in my videos, I mentioned that was probably the most likely path that they would take. Okay? That was the most likely path that they would take in the review of that. Now, one thing I really would like these guys to understand, I mean, Democrats, let's be honest with you. You wouldn't lose in court if you never brought things into court in the first place. I mean, they sit and they blame how they lose in court and how they've lost against things like the Constitution. Well, if they never bothered to challenge it in the first place, they'd never lose. But anyway. All right. So some of the meltdowns were just epic. Okay. Just really quick. Some of them were epic. One of them in particular. Oh, Keith Olbermann. Oh my gosh, this guy. Oh, he went from what I'll be honest with you, what Keith Olbermann used to be somewhat of a decent, I guess he came from sportscaster, and he's turned himself into a complete raving lunatic. Leftist anyway, flaming, whatever kind of lunatic. I can't even say it. But anyway, yeah. So he actually, believe it or not, went after Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, for going with the Constitution. So, yeah, but then he went and also said that, let me see if I can find it here, because it's in here, I think. No. No, apparently not. Apparently it's not on this. Oh, yeah. Here he goes. Gunther Eagleman over on X was like, cry more, 9-0 to Keith Olbermann. And Keith responded back, those aren't tears, fascist. They're urine. I'm sure you enjoy being bathed in it. And somebody points out, Keith, this comeback doesn't make any sense. It implies that you're pissing on yourself. Oh my gosh. And it's Damon Toll says, did you just say that your face is covered in piss? I mean, these people are so idiots. They are so much idiots. I can't even imagine. I'm sorry. I can't even imagine waking up and being that damn dumb. It just isn't. Oh, and Rob Reiner, by the way, my favorite guy, meathead himself. He went ahead and posted on X something about, if Trump wins, he's going to light himself on fire. Yeah, that's going to get us all to not vote for Trump. I mean, honestly, it would probably incentivize some people. But anyway, as I said, this particular result was not in question, realistically. It wasn't. The more important ones, we've got two. The more important ones are coming. Okay. One of them being, of course, the immunity appeal. That one is probably going to be the one that either makes or breaks Jack Smith's case against Trump in the DC court system. Okay. And they went ahead, the Supreme Court, pushed it till April. Well, now they apparently reportedly have finally set a date for the oral arguments. And this is from the Epoch Times. And it looks like they've set the date as April 25th to hear the oral arguments over former President Donald Trump's claim that he enjoys immunity from prosecution in his D.C. trial. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more on that here in just a second. But for right now, I want to talk to you about this fantastic thing that I have here in my hand. It is leather covered. It is such a wonderful document to carry around with you in your pocket. You can pull it out anytime and learn about our historical founding document known as the Constitution of the United States. This wonderful 1/8 of an inch Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution with tear and water-resistant pages inside, as well as a stitched binding that goes all the way through the leather on the other side. It has, as my rumblers know, sexy rounded corners, and the interior has Roman numerals in order, both on the articles as well as the amendments. It has all 27 of them in there too. It is buddy tested, buddy approved. It is Billy tasted and Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior, who is out there somewhere, has proven that the internal contents are correct because of the fact that he passed his civics badge in Scouts using this as a primary source document. Head on over to constitution.americanperspective.online. That's constitution.americanperspective.online to buy this great document, 100-year warranty against defects in workmanship and materials, so you can pass this down to generation after generation. It could become a family heirloom. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours and support the show today. All right. And of course, check out some of the other things that the Institute on the Constitution has as well. All right. So here's the thing with the idea of presidential immunity. All right. Now, some of the left has been posting on social media. They've been freaking out about this. They've been talking about, well, if Trump has immunity, then that means that Biden can just have SEAL Team 6 go and arrest him right now, or that Biden can just go and dismantle the Supreme Court for no reason. Well, okay. On the face, if you basically say that the president has complete immunity over all of his actions, everything that he or she does while in office, then yeah, you could conceivably come to that conclusion. However, where I think the Supreme Court is going to go is that they're going to, if they decide to rule in Trump's favor, they will probably rule on the fact that the actions that he takes as president with the intent of doing his duty. So in other words, going and, attacking his political opponent and throwing him in jail or destroying the Supreme Court of the United States are not part of one of his constitutional duties. And so therefore, that would not be considered something that would be covered under presidential immunity. And that just is, anyone with a little bit of common sense would know that. Okay. So going out and saying that, if he gets blanket immunity, because Trump's not asking for blanket immunity. Trump is just simply saying, I was doing my duty, and in doing my duty, I should have immunity from prosecution in doing my duty. And I think that it would be fairly easy for the Supreme Court to essentially argue that, hey, as long as he's doing his constitutional duty, he should be fine. He should be exempt from prosecution, because think about this. I seem to recall that when Barack Obama sent a drone in to a foreign soil, dropped a bomb on what originally was thought of as a group of terrorists, but turned out to be a family of foreign nationals who were supposedly helping the U.S., and he killed them. If they strip presidential immunity away completely, then that would mean that Barack Obama, in doing that act, would be open to prosecution for murder. And so I honestly don't think that the Supreme Court is going to go that way. Because if you just strip his immunity completely, that becomes a different beast altogether. And as Trump has pointed out in some of his conversations, that essentially is that, you know, if he were to do something in that way and, yeah, let's just say a mistake happened or whatever, then he could be criminally liable once he lost his immunity as in the presidency. So, yeah. And actually, Judge Wild over here on Rumble says, the lawyers have to play the game of asking for complete immunity. If you don't ask the SCOTUS for something, you don't get it. It's not up to the lawyers to refine the immunity to a definition. And I agree with that. Usually what you end up doing when you're in a court of law is you ask for whatever your maximum is, and then you have like your settlements, just like if you're trying to make a deal with somebody in some sort of a negotiation that you're dealing with. You ask for your maximum, and then when the other side comes in and tries to settle, they back you off to where you actually knew that's where you wanted to be. And that's the way the game is played. But the thing about it is that some people are like kind of looking at this SCOTUS decision that went 9-0 as a possible precursor as to how they might rule on his presidential immunity case. This from Just the News. Alan Dershowitz, who is, of course, Harvard Law professor emeritus and everything, he basically says the same thing that I just talked about, which is, I'm hoping the Supreme Court will write a narrow decision granting some immunity, but not nearly as much as what Trump has asked for. And that's kind of the general consensus with realistic experts in the law field. Because if you don't have immunity, then all of a sudden, the president can't make, or is going to be hampered by trying to make decisions that are life and death that could have something to do with the saving of the country. And that would affect him or her if they can't do it. So, legal experts are disagreeing. They're going back and forth. Of course, they generally think that they're, the left has their experts, and of course the right has theirs. But the question is going to be just how much immunity is going to be given. I think they're going to give him something, because he is just, Trump's asking for immunity from prosecution completely. And I honestly think that he doesn't, it's one of those things again, where it's not that you have complete immunity, but you don't have complete non-immunity. It's somewhere in the middle where it's more than likely intelligence wise, that would say where that's supposed to be. Yeah, and just as a reminder, Smith indicted Trump last August on charges of conspiracy to defraud, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, which I don't know why he wasn't even there, obstruction of and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Trump, of course, has pleaded not guilty to all counts. Now, the interesting thing on the obstruction charges that they have here is there's another case before the Supreme Court as well that could decide, that has, I think, 300 potential overturns or backoffs of sentences or whatever, because the obstruction charges that they are using were actually penned in specifics for finance cases, finance law. They for white collar crimes, and that's not the case in this particular situation. As we all know, Jack Smith tends to challenge novel and tends to bring novel legal theory to court to try and argue on them, even though it's novel. It's never been done before. And he doesn't have the greatest track record in winning them either, by the way. So Dershowitz told Just the News No Noise TV on Monday that the Supreme Court will not rule completely in Trump's favor. They will not rule that his broad perception of immunity, quote, you can order the SEALs to kill your opponent and you'll be immune unless you're impeached. They're not going to rule in favor of that. And so then he questions himself or ponders aloud and says, the question is, will they rule completely on the other side? Or will they say, look, there is a narrow amount of immunity? He argued, Dershowitz, that there has to be some immunity, and it has to not end at the time of the presidency. It has to continue. And so Dershowitz is kind of saying the same thing that I am referring to, which is that that the Supreme Court, sorry, I lost my place, that the Supreme Court will write a narrow decision granting some immunity, but not nearly as much as what Trump has asked for. Now, I offer up the idea that as long as the president is doing his constitutional duties, okay, upholding laws and those kinds of things, I think that they could probably narrow this out and, narrowly get it into a context where the presidential immunity is sitting based off of the Constitution. As long as he's doing his constitutional duties, then he's immune. But if he doesn't, then, if he's stepping outside the bounds, then his immunity is gone. I could see an intelligent group of people coming up with that. I really could. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. So enough about the SCOTUS and all of that stuff. We've got a fantastic announcement. I got to tell you, I have a lot of respect for this guy. I've listened to some of his speeches. He is incredible. I would love to see him win the position that he's going for, as well as I would actually love to see him potentially continue into the federal realm, because this guy is just fantastic. North Carolina's Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson will face off against Josh Stein for the North Carolina governor's race. I'm going to tell you, folks, if you have ever listened to Mark Robinson speak, and before he became lieutenant governor, okay, he had a viral video where he was talking about gun rights at I'm not sure what kind of a meeting it was, but it was I think it was a local city or county or something meeting. But I've got to tell you, that man has got some serious orator abilities. He is incredible. And if you have a chance to listen to some of the videos of his speeches, he is just fantastic. And he falls completely on the side of America. He is a proud conservative American, and he is incredible in terms of how he speaks. He is passionate. He is honest. He is he doesn't have a problem getting in your face at all. And he is just fantastic. I wish him all the best in defeating Josh Stein in November for this. He was able to win out in the primaries there and get the spot to go up against Josh Stein. And I would love to see him take the place for two reasons. I mean, other than the fact of number one, which is the biggest reason, is that the guy is fantastic. And I think he will be a fantastic governor for North Carolina. But the other reason is because there is nothing that the left hates more. There's nothing that the left hates more than a black conservative. Just take a look at, Clarence Thomas. Take a look at any other black conservatives that we have in the public sphere, and they all go after him. They all go after him. Tooth and nail and everything. I mean, I think that they're actually even worse off in terms of, being attacked than a white Christian nationalist would be. If a leftist had the choice of which one to go after, I think they would actually go after the black conservative over the white Christian nationalist. And he is just fantastic. We have, 3 Chevy points out, we have Byron Donalds as another one. We have, Jarhead says, Mark Robinson is an eloquent, intelligent black conservative. And that is just incredible for that. Byron Donalds is another good one. Clarence Thomas obviously is a staunch conservative, and they keep going after him like nobody's business. There's a bunch of them out there, and the left hates him. And so, other than the fact that he's fantastic, I would love to see him continue to the governor's race or to the governor's mansion, and then potentially move into a federal position, because this guy is just fantastic. I love listening to him speak. So if you ever take a listen, you should go and do that. All right. Another own. This was part of an own, but another own that happened this week. I've been talking about Bidenomics, and I've talked about Bidenomics quite often. And I'm going to kind of let you guys all in on a little secret about the internet. Okay. Generally speaking, you can register what's called a domain name. So like AmericanPerspective.online is a domain name. I also have AmericanPerspective.net, and I also have AmericanPerspective.live. Okay. Now those domain names, everything after the dot is specific, com, net, live. Obviously, com is for company. Net is generally speaking for network. You have .live, you have .online. There's a whole bunch. You've got .tv. There's just a whole bunch of different ones that are out there. And it used to be you only had a few. Well, now we've got so many that what a lot of these people do, a lot of people who are out there go and they just swoop up. If they find I didn't forget .tv. I said it. There you go. .tv. There's a whole bunch of ones that are out there. And in actuality, all of those, believe it or not, actually have another dot after that. So you would have domain name .com.us because it's coming from the United States. Okay. You also have .ru, which would be from Russia. You have, I don't know some of the other ones, but every single country has their own dot. after it. And it's typically dropped off. Okay. It's typically dropped off when you type the name in your browser bar. All right. But as I was saying, what usually happens is if you get some sort of a catchy name, or if you get something that is publicized everywhere, people will go and they make money off of going and grabbing those domain names. Okay. And then hanging on to them. They'll grab them for cheap and then they'll hang on to them until somebody wants it. And when they want it, they'll charge, however much that they can get in order. Yes, Becky.au for Australia. That's correct. And 3 Chevy calls them squatters. I think that's like a colloquial name for them. But essentially what they do is they swoop in, they get these things. All right. Well, somebody grabbed Bidenomics.com. Okay. Well, this was just announced because this is from the Townhall. So the Bidenomics.com website name got purchased by one of these people who went and grabbed it. And the people that purchased it are conservatives. And so here is the Bidenomics website, Bidenomics.com. Bidenomics.com is got this wonderful image behind me, and it says Bidenomics is bad economics. And of course, if you scroll down, and I only want to show you this, you guys can go and check it out. Just go to Bidenomics.com. You can go and check it out. But here it shows rhetoric versus reality. And it goes through and gives you a whole bunch of the rhetoric on the left side, and the right side gives you the reality of it. So if you are ever interested in finding out the truth about Bidenomics, just go to Bidenomics.com. Sorry, I'm loving this too much. Oh, this is just awesome. So head off to Bidenomics.com to look up the real truth about our wonderful economic fortune. I've been spending a lot of time on X refuting all of these claims, especially the claims of I made $14 million jobs. And it it goes through and it just goes on and on and on. It's not really all that deep. As you can see, I got down to the bottom. But there's some updates and there's some other stuff. There's a petition here that you can maybe sign. I don't know. But this is paid for by the Americans for Prosperity. And so they grabbed this. This is just awesome. I mean, it just is. You'll have to go and take a look and see. But that's Bidenomics, and it's bad economics. And you can see the AI is switched here. But anyway, I just thought it was hilarious. You guys, I figured you guys would want to take a look at it. Okay, so what do we have? Oh, so we have another short, small, little win. Okay, we have, a couple steps and things like that to get to, but this is fantastic. Louisiana becomes the nation's 28th state with constitutional carry laws on the books. This is considered a landmark victory. The governor, obviously it's an NRA-backed law, but the governor said law-abiding citizens should never have to seek government permission to safeguard themselves and their families, which is true. I mean, if you read the Second Amendment, anybody with a brain sees that shall not be infringed at the end. and understands that, yeah, that's the way it should be. And so they become 28 out of 50. So we are past the halfway mark when it comes to these things. Now, do I actually believe constitutional carry is going to go across the across the whole United States? Not under our current position when it comes to the states, because obviously we know the entire left coast, the Washington, Oregon, and California trifecta, will never allow this kind of thing. But it's stepping out, and we're making progress here, folks. It's the little wins. It's the little steps. It's the little things that you have to kind of take under advisement, and you have to kind of take with a grain of salt, and understand that it's incremental steps. We've got to, as they say, advance the football down the field. Sometimes you make 10 yards, sometimes only 7, sometimes only 1. But the key here is to remember that we have to keep pushing. We have to keep getting and gaining that yardage. And unfortunately, a lot of Republicans, especially the rhinos, seem to forget that concept. They seem to forget the idea that the overall goal is not to necessarily enrich an individual person. It is to enrich the entire country. It is to save the entire country from the Marxism that we have running rampant right now. And what we need to do is we need to step up the efforts to gain that yardage. We just got to gain a little yardage each time. That should be our focus. Gain our yardage. And if we happen to get a, home run in baseball terms, or a, big set of yards off of something, all the better. But the focus here needs to be staying on offense and moving the ball down the field. Got to move that ball down the proverbial field. And that's what we're looking for. And so stuff like this, I got to bring it up because it's stuff like this that encourages people, that brings people along to make it so that they are willing to try the next time. And that essentially is what we need to do. So Louisiana becomes the 28th state. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to get 29 here in the near future. And we just need to push the ball down the field. Just need to push the ball down the field. All right. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So, I've got a couple of things coming up here with regards to the environmentalists. The whole green agenda. Realistically, I mean, I've told you this. I've been telling you this about the windmills. I've told you about the windmills themselves, how it takes something like 25 years or 30 years to have a return on investment. And then you end up with, having to change the blades at 25 years or 20 years, whatever, 5 years short of their return on investment. You're already investing more money in its maintenance. You've got the 80,000 gallons of oil that has to go into these wind machines in particular to keep them up and running. I've told you about my own experience with the local electric company, how the hydroelectric dams are only used for backups and for overages. They're not even used as a primary source of power because they can't even equate to the coal-fired plants. The fiberglass blades, they take them down and you can't recycle them. They have to go and throw them into a landfill somewhere and all of that stuff. Well, people are starting to wake up to this. People are starting to wake up about green energy. And I really think the cold that hit in Chicago. And I don't know if anybody saw this, but I know I did. I saw the videos of people trying to charge their electric cars that are dead in the cold. And they end up where they could, even the chargers were failing in Chicago because it was so damn cold. Okay. Well, there's a couple of articles, and I've got them in the show notes, or the video descriptions, I should say, about it. And I wanted to bring your attention to them because of the fact that, again, we have these groups that are essentially lying to us. And they have been lying to us for realistically a very, very long time. And I'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you that I'm working on getting the store set up, okay? I got to give you an update on this. There's going to be some fantastic new logoed gear out there. And whoops, I didn't change this one over. But before I do, I will tell you that the old store is still up and at it. If you want to go and get some of the older Whiskey Musings gear, you still can. You can go to store.whiskeymusings.online and you can pick up Whiskey Musings gear. That store will stay up for, we'll call it indefinitely for now. But I'll definitely let you know if that changes. But I am getting ready soon, hopefully, to be able to launch. I'm doing some testing in the background. This new store is going to give me greater visibility into things. And yes, Bonnie. Okay. Bonnie, I know you mentioned this. I'm going to bring it up here. She wants the Whiskey Musings hat, which is this guy right here. Okay. I have them. All right. I have them. I am trying to finalize the testing to make sure that you guys can get them, that I can get and receive your addresses securely, and that I can send them out to you and we can track it all through the store. So as soon as the store on the American Perspective site is launched, these will be in there. Okay. So they will be available soon. All right. And Redford, you may have to, Redford 1238 on Rumble says it's so hard to find you now on the phone, and it took forever to figure it out. You may have to go and follow me again, because I did the name change that might have affected your ability. So you may have to follow me again on Rumble. And Bonnie wants the one with the Whiskey Musings on it. Okay, I still have some of those, so I'll see what I can do for you on that. When we get ready, I'll explain how that's going to work. But all of this stuff is coming, okay? But the original Whiskey Musings store is still available. There's still stuff there. You can still go and get it. Going to store.whiskeymusings.online. And of course, when the new American Perspective store comes up, it will be store.americansperspective.online. Store.americanperspective.online will be coming soon. I'm in the final stages of doing all the testing and getting everything set up. I want to make sure that you guys have a smooth experience with what's going on, and to understand from my side what I have to do to ensure that smooth experience for you guys. So it's coming, I promise. And I've got some ideas for some great new gear. It won't just be logo gear, and it won't just be one singular saying gear. It'll be some other stuff, and it's going to be fantastic. I promise you, I think you're going to like what I come up with. And of course, things are going to be adding to that. But anyway, all right. Speaking of environment, sorry, very bad segue, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. What the heck? This report came out. This is in Hot Air. And apparently there was a recent study, and I've got the link again in the description, by the Center for Climate Integrity that details a report on how the plastics industry marketed recycling as a solution to plastic waste for decades, all the while dismissing it internally as both technically and economically unviable. Now, I'm going to tell you, even without this, I've done my own, ad hoc sort of look into some of this. And yeah, the area that I live in is really big on recycling and things like that. But it's not as lucrative as what a lot of people think. It's not as technically viable as what other people think. In fact, several of my we go and we recycle a lot of plastics around here, but the thing about it is it has to be a certain type of plastic. And so what they go and do is they say, oh, you can recycle all this plastic. You can recycle plastics. They give it a generic name. You can recycle plastic bottle, plastic this, plastic that. And you end up with not being able to do all of that. There are certain levels of plastics in there that you just cannot do anything about, and that you have to go and throw it out. And in fact, I even found out just by talking to our local recycling center was that if you go and so here in my neck of the woods, you have to you're supposed to take the caps off the bottles and throw the cap away, because the cap itself is not recyclable, but the bottle supposedly is. And so you have to go and do that. Well, if you happen to leave the cap on the plastic bottle, when it goes to the recycling plant, they do have people go through and they pull the stuff out, but rather than pulling it out, pulling off the top and throwing the bottle back, they just throw the bottle away. They just pull it out because they don't have time to uncork or uncap it. They just throw it away. So this particular report kind of goes through this whole thing. If you recall the ad campaign of Plastics Make It Possible, apparently, according to the report, statistically, most of the plastic is either landfilled or burned. Just about 9% of what we recycle is actually recycled, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is an intergovernmental group. The Center for Climate Integrity study pins the blame not on the consumers, who typically shoulder such criticism, but instead on oil and gas companies and the plastics industry itself. Go figure. The industry's actions effectively protected and expanded plastic markets, the report states, while stalling legislative or regulatory action that would meaningfully address plastic waste and pollution. Okay, so here's the thing. This is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. Just to give you an idea as to how the whole green thing with these plastics has gone, here in the state of Washington, we passed, or the legislature, I should say, passed, which the legislature is essentially a de facto Democrat stronghold. The legislature passed this 8 cents per bag plastic bag thing. Okay. And this law went into effect, I don't know, probably about a year ago. All right. But here's the thing. About 3 years prior to that, they banned the use of paper bags, which paper bags, for those of you that don't know, are actually able to be recycled and are usually recycled almost 100%. Now, there are some paper products that cannot be recycled, but the majority of them can. And so here we have this whole thing where the state said, oh, well, everybody has to use plastic now, plastic bags. We're going to get rid of, because it's better for the environment not to have those trees, which are a renewable resource, growing all the time. We're going to get rid of all of the paper bags, and we can only go to plastic. Well, now plastic bags, some of them aren't even getting recycled. They have collection points, I can guarantee you that. But here we have plastics not being recycled. So here is the report. It is downloadable. It's in a PDF. Like I said, I have the link in the description. You can go and grab it. But this is the report. It was just put out February of 2024 for this. Now, of course, they are blaming big oil in the plastics industry, which, by the way, where do you think plastics come from? Okay. We talk about trying, or I should say, our illustrious geriatric leader right now keeps talking about getting rid of big oil. Well, just about everything that you touch, plastics and everything else, is made as a petrochemical, meaning from oil, petroleum. So anyway, these people, they're just total nuts. Total nuts. And hey, did you catch this article? Probably not, because this one's in the Miami Herald, but I've seen others. I've seen reprints or something like that around as well. Electric vehicles potentially are worse for the environment and more dangerous than gas-powered cars. So this is a piece. Again, it's in the Miami Herald is where I got this one, but I've seen versions of it elsewhere. And apparently, it goes into the main concern dealing with the lithium-ion batteries, which of course has to deal with the mining of the raw materials needed to produce them. Okay, which for those of you that have never seen photos of these things, I mean, it's basically strip mining is pretty much what you have. And even then, even in the strip mines, you also have places that will mine it based off of low labor costs and use child labor in order to get this, get these heavy metals, is what they're called, out of the earth. And typically what they'll do is they'll extract them from like salt flats and things like that. Disrupts local ecosystems, it contaminates groundwater. Cobalt and nickel is also a part of these batteries. And they're typically mined in countries that don't have the environmental protections that we do, as well as, like I said, child labor, environmental damage, human rights abuses. Also, after you produce them, which, by the way, production of these batteries requires a significant amount of energy. You remember when I was talking to you about China and how China was expanding its coal-fired power plants? This is why. The majority of large lithium-ion batteries come from China. China has the market. They have roughly 60% of the raw materials market locked up, and they have probably close to like 80% of the manufacturing of these batteries locked up as well. Okay. And so what ends up happening here is that it requires a significant amount of energy to build these things, which is typically generated from non-renewable resources such as coal and natural gas. This means that the production of EVs can actually result in higher greenhouse gas emissions than the production of gas-powered vehicles. Yeah, they generate the power. Of course, we all talked about how charging them. You've seen pictures of the internet where they have an EV charging station next to a diesel generator. Anyway, there's also, keep in mind too, that these batteries that you have, when you go and you change out those batteries in your car, okay, there is actually a decomposition period because you can't go and like break it apart and recycle it at all. They have to actually put it in a landfill and just leave it. Okay. How long? Well, generally 100 years or more, according to the article here. For 100 years after a lithium-ion battery has been used up, it is slowly releasing potentially toxic byproducts into the environment, causing potentially more pollutants and more damage than traditional gasoline. Okay. Now, the other thing that is another major drawback of these things, of course, is the lifespan, which, of course, we know about, but there's even more. For an example, there's a lot of people who have talked about electric vehicles, and we've seen it all in like the Florida, when the Florida hurricanes, when the water surge came up and that salt water hits those batteries and corrodes them, they would end up lighting the things on fire, the cars on fire. And even now, even with like proper firefighting equipment, okay, even with proper firefighting equipment, most of the time they just let the damn thing burn. In fact, not too long ago, there was a potential electric vehicle fire close to my house here, and or I should say the studio here, and they essentially had to just let it burn because you can't use your standard fire retardant and fire suppression equipment. You can't use water on it, and you can't even use like the special dust and stuff that they have for electrical fires. It just doesn't work. And so they have to just let the damn thing burn because the things burn something like 3,000 or more degrees. I'm not even sure. I think they mention it. Oh yeah, the rapid rate at which they can release the energy is the thing. And then of course, once they catch fire, they can't put them out. Like I said, it's over 1,000 degrees Celsius or 1832 degrees Fahrenheit that these fires can reach and burn for hours, sometimes even days, depending mostly on the number of batteries that are in the car. And then you also have the danger of leakage. So let's say, for an example, here they talk about the Model S and the Model X. The battery packs themselves in those cars, okay, contain over 7,000 individual cells. And the Model 3 contains about 4,000 of these individual batteries. So that's between 4,000 and 7,000 individual batteries. Now, just think about this. You get into a small car accident, okay? A small car accident with one of these things, and it cracks the case. You get one leaking, okay? And next thing you know, that gets, onto the ground. It releases toxic gases. And then you have, because it's now in a cracked case, you have the potential of that one cell causing a fire across all of the rest of the cells. And again, just like I said, once they get started, it can't be stopped. They basically just have to let it burn. Folks, going all electric is not a good idea. And in fact, as I've pointed out on this show on multiple occasions, you want to go green, that's fine. But you can't force everybody to go green. You can't go and put all of these, all of your eggs essentially in one basket. We need to diversify in order to balance everything. And in fact, the most green energy that we have available that nobody even wants to talk about is nuclear energy. Okay? Nuclear energy. Now, there are some in the article, there are some advancements that they are pushing for in terms of trying to create electric vehicles again. But there's a thing just throwing out here. Oh, Palms, that's funny. That is funny. I'm sorry. I got to read. So Palms over on Rumble says, when I hit the thumbs up, it goes green. That's about as green as I go. Oh, that's great. But there's a new battery that apparently is being worked on. It's like the Holy Grail. It's made out of what's called graphene. And graphene is apparently an excellent conductor of electricity. It's also more durable than like graphite themselves, meaning that the batteries could have longer lifespans. They also could be more resistant to issues and problems. They're more environmentally friendly than the metals that we're currently using in the lithium ion batteries. It's made from carbon, which of course is readily available. And so on and so forth. And so, yeah, They're working on it, but it doesn't mean the technology is here. Okay. So anyway, yeah, this is just, so that's a fail for the left, for the leftist and the greenies. Speaking of another fail, for anyone who has the idea, okay, that Gavin Newsom is like an extremely smart individual and that he is like so highly intelligent and such a great look. He uses probably a gallon of oil in his hair every day to make his hair flip back like that. Okay. Just recently, Gavin Newsom signed into law the $20 an hour raise for a minimum wage law in California. But there was a catch that I don't think anybody outside of him really noticed. Okay. I don't think anybody noticed this. But the catch in the bill that he signed included an exemption. That exemption was for places that, quote, produce bread. Now, there was an article that came out about a week ago that mentioned a tangential connection between Gavin Newsom and a owner of several Panera Bread franchises in California. And so the accusation was floated that Gavin Newsom wrote that in order to help Panera from being from having to pay the $20 minimum wage. Okay. Well, guess what? That is not flying very well. And according to the Washington Free Beacon, we can take a look at how fast food franchisees or franchises are pushing back against that, pushing back against Newsom's $20 minimum wage law. So fast food industry insiders, according to the piece, are disputing Governor Newsom's claim that the bakery chain Panera Bread will have to comply with the state's sweeping $20 minimum wage law for fast food franchises, as the governor faces criticism for allegedly exempting the bakery chain to benefit a billionaire donor. Oh, this guy, I'm telling you, he, the guy, billionaire Greg Flynn, who was apparently a former high school classmate of Newsom's and owner of 24 Panera franchises, who has given more than $160,000 to Newsom's campaigns, and he had the exemption put in place. Yeah. Fast food industry insiders say the exemption is so vague that the governor's interpretation would have to be litigated in court, while California Republicans and other franchisees dispute it outright and see Newsom's walkback as motivated by the negative publicity. God, folks, this guy, if he were to ever run for president, you should not just say no. You should not just say hell no. You should say hell no to this guy being president. This guy is a snake oil salesman. He is horrible. He is taken what was a once nice state, sort of, and turned it into a garbage crap hole. And I'm sorry, Bam. I know that's your neck of the woods, but yeah, Bam says he is Satan. He's pretty damn close. I'm going to tell you, this guy is he is worthless. If you see this guy on a presidential primary ballot, run. Do not cross him off the freaking thing. Do not vote for this guy. He is horrible. I'm kind of hoping that his political career is going to end after his governorship. By the way, does anybody know? I don't even know. Does anybody know if California has a limitation on how many times you can be governor? I think it's only 2. I hope. But anyway. Yeah, this guy is horrible. Keith Miller, who is a consultant with the Franchisee Advocacy Consulting, says, I don't know many places, if any, that mix dough on site. He added that as a Subway franchisee himself, his stores also get frozen dough sticks, which they thaw and bake. I think people say, that's producing bread. Yeah. I guess I'm right. I guess they're only like a 2-term governorship. So do you know if he's in, Bam, just asking real quick, is he in her first term, second term? I hope he's in his second term. Actually, I even heard a rumor running around that there was a second recall effort coming up. Is that true? But anyway, yeah, this guy is horrible. So him, honestly, he and Michelle Obama were floated as alternates for the current geriatric that we have in the White House, running for president a second time. Yeah, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see, what happens here, but regardless, the left doesn't have very much in the way of their bench at all when it comes to these kinds of things. So, yeah. Okay. One last piece before I go with this. And, that wonderful economy that I talked to you about with the Bidenomics.com. Well, here from Fox Business, apparently Wall Street is growing more worried about 1970s style stagflation risks. They think that the U.S. economy could be headed toward a stagflation scenario. Well, again, keep in mind, it was stagflation during the Jimmy Carter era that gave us the Ronald Reagan clean sweep of 49 out of 50 states. Just saying. So some of these advocates or strategists are growing concern. They're talking about the back-to-back consumer price index reports in December and January coming in above estimates, fueling fears that high inflation could be more difficult to conquer than previously believed. JP Morgan chief strategist Marko Kolanovic wrote in a note to clients at the end of February, we believe that there is a risk of the narrative turning back from Goldilocks towards something like 1970s stagflation with significant implications for asset allocation. Stagflation is a combination of economic stagnation and high inflation characterized by soaring consumer prices, which we're in, as well as high unemployment. Now, the high unemployment is, just from a numbers perspective, the high unemployment is actually being padded by the fact that you have mostly part-time jobs that are being taken, that the number of people in the full-time marketplace are no longer there like they used to be. And the other thing is that, people are no longer looking for full-time work. So, yeah. Anyway, one can only hope and pray that Donald Trump, who is now the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party, so we're now down to Trump versus Biden 2.0. And we can only hope and pray that Joe Biden goes the way of the dodo, because he is a dodo, and gets out and goes away. All right. So do me a favor. If you like the broadcast, you like the program, please head on over to Rumble, hit that thumbs up button, because that's what Rumble uses for, for tracking purposes and putting you on the editor's leaderboard or something like that. I don't even know what it is. But anyway, hit that thumbs up, because that means everything to Rumble. It's how many likes you get. And then, of course, if in order to be able to hit the thumbs up, you got to have a Rumble account. So you might as well just go and sign up. And once you are there, follow the American Perspective channel. It's there. You should be able to find it. Obviously come back every Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on this same channel. And we will see you next time. Do me a favor and have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you on Saturday right here on American Perspective with Rick Thomas. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.